Nays. This show is all about our legislative chambers. On Eyes and Nays, we talk about the laws being debated at the state and national assemblies. We look at how these chambers are performing their oversight duties on the executive. Usually, we're having this segment on Fridays at 5. It's a new segment. We launched it in January, and we typically stay on this segment every Friday from 5 o'clock. However, we have a regular programming that has returned to Friday now, Public Square. It's back on air Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. now. And so we've moved Eyes and Nays to Thursdays at 5. Who had their way in the selection of National Assembly principal officers? Who had their way in the selection of NASS principal officers? After all the wheeling and dealing, both the Senate and the House of Reps have finalized their lists of principal officers to lead the 10th Assembly. Here is today's big hard fact. Actually, it's a big legislative fact. Apart from the Senate President, House Speaker, and their deputies, each chamber of the National Assembly has majority and minority leaders and deputies, also majority and minority whips and deputies. So 8 principal officers in each house. 10 if you count the speaker and deputy, or the Senate president and deputy. And now we know who these people will be for the 10th Assembly. Today we'll talk about how they emerged. We'll talk about what they will do. And joining me once again is the Senior Program Executive at Order Paper, Temidayo Taiwo Siddiq. Temidayo, good to have you here on the show on a Thursday. Is this a bit odd for you, Temidayo? Temidayo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening, Lagos. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. By the way, Lagos Order Paper is Nigeria's foremost independent parliamentary
Sandra.
monitoring organization. Now, of course, before we begin, Lagos, let me list out these principal officers. So we'll start at this, where the Senate leader is Michael Bamidele, APC Ekiti Central. The deputy leader is Dave Omahi, APC Ebonyi South. The chief whip is Ali Ndume, APC Borno South. The deputy chief whip is Yisa Ashiru, APC Kwara South. So those are the principal officers on the majority side. On the minority side, we have the minority leader, Simon Wagdong, PDP Plateau North. The deputy minority leader is Oyewumi Olalere, PDP Oshun West. The minority whip is Darlington Wokocha, LP Abia Central. The deputy minority whip is Rufai Hanga, NMPP Kano Central. That's the Senate. Now, for the House of Reps, the House leader is Julius Ihobere, APC Edo. The deputy leader is Abdullahi Halings, APC Kogi. The chief whip is Bello Usman Kumo, APC Gombe. The deputy chief whip is Adeomi Oriyomi Onanuga, APC Ogun. By the way, Onanuga is the only woman principal officer in either chamber. And those are the principal officers on the majority side in the House of Representatives. On the minority side, here's who we have. The minority leader is Kingsley Chinda, PDP Rivers. The deputy minority leader is Ali Madaki, NMPP Kano. The minority whip is Ali Isa, PDP Gombe. The deputy minority whip is George Ozodinobi, LP Anambra. Temidayo, a good place to start is to ask you what these principal officers do day to day, because the biggest headache for my listener is that these people don't used to do anything. They just used to sit down there and collect fat checks. So what do these principals do day to day? Why are they even needed to begin with? Give us the overview, and then we'll go into the specific positions eventually, but be as descriptive as possible.
All right. It's a pleasure to be back here. And let me start by saying that the Senate is a very well-organized institution, just as the House of Representatives. While we see them on TV, and it appears that it's just a group of people who sit over a town hall to discuss issues, and then the presiding officer is the gavel. Is beyond that. the Senate and the House of Reps, which together make Nigeria's National Assembly a very organized institution, is actually an arm of government, just like you have the judiciary and you have the executive at all levels of our national life. And so, um, flowing from that point, it means that for an institution to work, it needs to have officers who would carry out major functions. And then you have 469 members altogether, 109 in the Senate, 3 from each state, 1 from the FCT. And then for the House of Reps, you have 360 members divided unevenly across these different states, dependent on land mass as well as population. Now, having established this, you cannot expect, as much as we have elected 360 people from across the federation to come and represent our views, represent our pulses, our pains, and our joys, perhaps at the federal level. 360 people cannot speak at the same time. 360 people cannot conduct the business of parliament at the same time. Same with the Senate, which is 109. So you need a leadership. Leadership of either of the chambers is divided into two. You have the presiding officers and you have the principal officers. The presiding officers speak to those who can preside over plenary, and they are the president of the Senate and the deputy president of the Senate. For the House of Reps, they are the speaker and the deputy speaker. And then you have the principal officers, which you reeled out for each of the chambers. And they are 8 in number for each particular chamber. Altogether, we have 10 leaders, 10 members who are leaders in each of the chamber. And then when you put 10 and 10 together, you have 20 members of the National Assembly who form the leadership of each assembly. Having established this, the next thing I would like to say is the fact that apart from the Senate president and the deputy, as well as the speaker and deputy speaker, who emerge from the floor of the House based on an election that is conducted by the clerk of the National Assembly, which is the non-political arm of the National Assembly. They conduct the elections into the National Assembly, presiding officers. Apart from those two people who we have called presiding officers, one point we need to know is that the other members of the leadership team for either of the chambers, they emerge along party lines. And so you have two broad caucuses. Caucus is like, let's just say association. That would be the best way to put it. So you have the majority party, which is the party, a single party with the highest number of seats. So 109 seats. In the Senate, for example, the APC has 59 seats. So the APC, by virtue of their numbers, form what is known as the majority caucus. In the same vein, you have 6 other parties who are in the minority. They have seats scattered here and there, but when we put all of those seats together, they are 50 in number. So they form what is the minority caucus. If you like, for the purpose of this conversation, we can say minority association of minority parties, but the parliamentary term is called caucus. And so, having established this, it is necessary that each of these caucuses have leaders to push forward their own interests, to cater to the interests of their own members. So the majority caucus will have its own leaders, and then the minority caucus will have its own leaders. Majority caucus, because they are the ones that are leading in parliament, usually they produce the speaker and deputy by convention. What it means is that the leader of the majority caucus is known as the leader of the house leader, or in the case of the Senate, is known as the Senate leader. And then just because you would need put into consideration the fact that this person may not be present all the time, you have a deputy leader of the Senate. And then, like I said, where you have 360 people in one room wanting to deliberate on an issue, these people, as they say, reflects the very diverse nature of Nigeria. People with different character, different background, experiences. You will need some form of discipline because the level of engagement that takes place is such that everybody is fighting for the interests of the people who have elected them. And so sometimes it can be rancorous, it can be chaotic, if you like, independent on what the issue at hand is. And so you need some people to instill some form of discipline, maintain that decorum in either of the chamber, which is why you have what is known as the chief whip. The chief whip does this majorly for members of the majority party, which is the majority caucus. And then like the majority leader, who is called the leader of the Senate or House leader, he or she, as it were, should have a deputy. And so what is applicable to the majority caucus is also applicable to the minority caucus. So you have a minority leader, deputy minority leader, minority whip, deputy minority whip for both chambers.
Okay. Now, the Senate president is chosen by the majority party, usually from their ranks. Same thing as the House Speaker. So when we now have a majority leader in both chambers, isn't this redundant? Shouldn't the Speaker or Senate president also be the majority leader?
Okay, it's important to state clearly that what the Nigerian Constitution says in Section 50 is that the members of the National Assembly shall elect amongst themselves. It doesn't specify whether it's the majority or not. But there are nuances that makes it almost impossible for minority parties to produce the leadership. One of those nuances is that the order of the Senate or the House says that the president of the Senate and the deputy president of the Senate, as well as the speaker and deputy speaker, will emerge by simple majority. So the common sense is that once you have a case where a party has a particular, the highest number of seats, it means that on their own, they can produce the president of the Senate, the presiding officers, depending on the chamber you're talking about. And let's do a quick example. If you have a case where in the Senate you have the APC with 59 seats and the minority parties with 50 seats, let's do the maths. If all the APC members vote for their own member to be the president of the Senate and the minority members vote, what you have is that the majority party will definitely produce the leadership. Now, let's flip this to the House. In the House, for example, the minority parties have 182 members. Of course, one died before they were inaugurated, so you have 181 altogether. While the APC has about 176. I'm not so sure. You can help do the difference. But of course, one of them have resigned now, which is Femi Gbajabiamila, who is now the chief of staff to the president. So in that case, it was a different ball game because the constitution does not say that the speaker must emerge from within the ranks of the majority. So what it now meant was that you needed to do a lot of lobbying, a lot of us training, and what then happened is that the minority parties decided to cede the obligation to produce the leadership, that's the presiding officers, to the APC. Now, to answer directly the question about isn't that some form of duplicity, it's not duplicity because in the real sense of it, like we don't practice our parliamentary business in isolation. Parliamentary business is something that we copied from advanced democracies. In fact, we can trace as far back as Greek city-states, where you had people coming to take decision on behalf of the entire people, and then Roman Empire and all of that. We can go far into history. But the point is that the idea is that the president of the Senate and the deputy president of the Senate are supposed to be bipartisan. when they sit on the chair that is meant for the leadership, they do not put on the toga of APC or another party. What they put on is the toga of, I am here to lead this institution. Although the conduct of these persons, dependent on who is occupying the office, varies or differ from person to person and from assembly to assembly, dependent on circumstances in which they've emerged, one, as well as the politics of the executive legislative relationship. That determines a whole lot. So when you look at it from the ideal nature of how it ought to be, then it means that you have the president and deputy president of the Senate, speaker and deputy speaker, who are supposed to be bipartisan in approach, in judgment, in decisions, in their dealings and everything. So you still need a majority leader. If you are probably offended, Sandra, by let's just say majority leader, maybe safer, and then a majority leader for the Senate, majority leader for the House, to still conduct the affairs of the majority caucus.
In the American system, the leader of the majority party is the majority leader, and the Senate president is actually the vice president who only shows up for certain things. So they made their own Senate president ceremonial and a tie-breaking vote, while the Senate majority leader is the one who actually controls the chamber. I have to take a very short break to bring an announcement to Lagos, but something for you to think about, Temidayo. Isn't this a more economical way of handling things? Just think about it while I inform Lagos about this.
Okay, have you heard about Ikeja Mega Business Summit? Ikeja Mega Business Summit is a business development and mentorship forum with a vision to help Nigerians discover how to increase their net worth through working smart, even at this period that a lot is happening in the economy of our nation. With this project, we will train, mentor you on how to build a successful business. One source of income as a salary earner is no longer sustainable. This is what the event is all about, to open your eyes to new opportunities. To be part of this, text yes to 0807 267 77444. Sorry, I'll take that again. 080 007 267 77444. Again, 0807 267 7744. 0807 267 7744.
All right, thank you very much. We have another information to share, but we'll share that in about 3 minutes. Hopefully, that's enough time for Temidayo to talk to me about the economy. Isn't this a more economical way of handling things, the American way?
Okay, it's important to also say that a lot of things that we practice has its roots from our historical development, our history,
Yes.
as well as our culture as a people.
Yes.
Sandra, let me shock you. Recently, I was even wondering when I saw Senate President during the plenary yesterday. I saw that the President of the Senate seat is very high, and then the other members are sort of below. You understand? And when you look at the British Parliament, for example, you wouldn't even know who is the Prime Minister or not, except maybe it's mentioned and it's very modest, Mr. Prime Minister or something, and then you see they're all seated like they're seated around the
Together,
table.
right?
Why these things don't really look to somebody will say, wait and say they don't look like a big deal to you, but that gap really reflects a lot, and it comes from our cultural way of our approach to things, which is the big manism, which is the if you like, we can also use the monarchical approach to issues. So yes, and so that is why I bet that Nigeria is perhaps one of the few parliaments among biggest democracies where you have this level of two very active chambers, like you rightly mentioned, the US and then the even in Britain, where you have the House of Lords and House of Commons. You usually would have one being more powerful, or one being while the other largely holding some form of ceremonial powers.
Right.
I believe and I agree with you that it does save a lot of funds. In
Right.
fact, maybe the Senate is supposed to even have part-time lawmakers in the first place, because what you have there is equality. And I have my own ideas, personal ideas about what really we should do with our Senate. I feel like we shouldn't spend time electing people, spending money on elections. We should probably have people nominated from different segments of society, not on a party basis. Then the House of Reps has that real representation, because not everything will be able to be dispensed by one chamber of parliament. We do need the bicameral thing, but it can be reduced, and then you have a part-time arrangement where these people don't sit every time. Perhaps maybe to confirm appointments of very, very important issues that you don't want to bog the House of Representatives with. So, I mean, these are my own personal ideas as a student of political science and history. But
But
apart from the
we'll come back to that. I really need Lagos to figure out how they can win this money.
Okay, Lagos. So, still in the spirit of bringing you good news, OnePlay.ng is saying that the prize money is now double, because a total of 150,000 can now be won every single night. 5 people can win 10,000 naira each, and 2 people can win 50,000 naira each. And you already know that you are supposed to dial *347*.
Just a few weeks after assuming office as president, President Bola Tinubu wasted no time in changing his service chiefs. And now that has generated some conversations. Some are asking if it was too soon, and others wondering whether it was too late. However, let's find out where he ranks in terms of how fast it took past presidents to change their service chiefs. Coming in at number 5 is the late President Umar Musa Yar'Adua, who took over the reins of government from President Olusegun Obasanjo. It took him 14 months and 3 additional weeks to do that. Number 4 is the past president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who assumed office after the unfortunate demise of President Umar Musa Yar'Adua. With President Jonathan, there was a bit of, urgency, because it took him just 4 months to change his service chiefs. Number 3 is the immediate past president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, who came into office with one goal in mind and one goal only: change. Or not? Well, it took him 7 weeks to change his service chiefs. Ooh, it's getting shorter. Now at number 2 is the current president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who assumed office on the 29th of May 2023, and in 3 weeks, he has switched up everything, changed his service chiefs. But even at that, he doesn't take the top list. He's not at number 1, because the top spot is reserved for the former president Olusegun Obasanjo, who switched things up on that day of his inauguration. Yes, you heard right. After taking his oath of office on the 29th of May 1999, President Obasanjo sacked his service chiefs on that day. Some others would have thought, let me sleep on it a bit, let me think about it, let me just ponder. But not Obasanjo. Well, it's fair to say that some like to hit the ground running immediately, while others like to take their time, But what is most important is that it doesn't matter how fast it takes presidents to change service chiefs, but how fast the service chiefs change things when they assume office. Good luck to the new service chiefs. And I am Yvonne Ohaifo.
Business Day. News you can trust.
Make you dey look for wetin go moisturize plus make your skin dey smooth. Make you dey use Vaseline every day so that your skin go preservation to retain its rich native aroma in your vegetable soup, egusi, miyan taushe, miyan kuka, and other native meals. Go get your daily dawa at the nearest market today.
Daily Dawa.
Daily dawa, made from fermented locust beans. Daily dawa, native taste maker.
Customer, yeah, come. Authentic UK product. Give my customer a chop.
Customer, I get what you find. Enter, but I'll get inside.
Emeka, how far now? I hear say you don't settle your third boy this month. Not true?
Not true. Like Keystone Bank Oga account where I open to save money they help me. To settle my boys no be problem again. And when I need emergency money, I still fit borrow from inside the account. Sharp.
That one good.
With Keystone Bank's Oga account, you can plan better towards your apprentice's settlement. With a minimum balance of 5,000 naira, you can open an Oga account, make monthly contributions, and get interest on savings. Make it happen for your apprentice today. Visit the nearest Keystone Bank branch or call 0700 2000 3000 to open an Oga account. Keystone Bank, we grow together.
So, we went on the streets to ask people how they love Nescafe Multi.
This multi, that's sweet, oh.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Whoever added Multi Nescafe is a genius.
The way the coffee tastes, they mix with the sweet creaminess and the malt taste, it not get me.
See, I beg, if you want great me now have a great multi day.
Well, you've heard it live and direct. Start your day with a Nescafe Multi every day. And have a great multi-day. Start strong, finish strong. Nescafe.
Mommy, my teacher said 90% of my brain will develop by the time I am 5.
Really? What else did she say?
She said I need iron in my food for my brain to grow well.
Oh, very true. And that's why I give you Cerelac Junior every day, which provides half of your daily iron needs.
And Cerelac Junior tastes so good.
Cerelac Junior with Iron Plus. It's all good, Mom.
Daily Dawa. Daily Dawa.
From fermented locust beans.
Daily Dawa. Daily Dawa.
Mama know they use and play. Native taste maker, cause it tastes an aroma. They give them native vibe.
Daily Dawa. Daily Dawa.
No need to rinse them. I say no need to grind them. Just tear them, pour them, use them. They stir them.
Daily dawa is a powdery seasoning processed and packaged under hygienic conditions with long-term preservation to retain its rich native aroma in your vegetable soup, egusi, miyan taushe, miyan kuka, and other native meals. Go get your daily dawa at the nearest market today.
Daily Dawa.
Daily dawa, made from fermented locust beans. Daily dawa, native taste maker.
How far? Every time you fantasize about traveling, the ticket fare slaps you back into reality, Abby. I have a solution. You can pay small. Let's say you want to travel to Johannesburg. You go to onboard.com. You search the ticket fare and it's 450k. You can lock down the ticket with as little as 10% and pay 2 to 5 times depending on your date of travel. Is it not better to pay that 450k like 3 times? It is. This applies to local and international flights. Quickly book your tickets. www.onboard.com, onboard.com, and use Pay Small.
Every morning is an opportunity to take your hustle to the next level. So, start every day with a great tasting cup of Nescafe 3-in-1. Just add water and enjoy the blend of coffee, creamer, and sugar with that rich, creamy taste you love. To help you start strong and make every morning count. Start strong, finish strong.
original shows on Showmax, Africa's original streaming service.
Do you want to be when you grow up?
Junior provides 50% of their daily irons to help them learn to their full potential and fulfill their dreams.
A musician, an architect.
Cerilac Junior with Iron Plus. It's all good.
Singapore, Miami. This summer, Wakana has got covered. Lockdown unbeatable travel deals with only 10% down payment and pay small in convenient installments. Book now on wakanow.com. Download the Wakanow app for even cheaper deals or walk into any of our travel centers near you. Take a break. Escape to paradise. Wakanow. Let's go.
Why are they my first choice? Bros, it makes sense. No minimum deposit, small money, that's all I had to start. And quick withdrawals, Uncle. Oh yeah, those payouts saved me sometimes. Click withdraw. Correct. But my main reason for choosing Share for You, I had plenty to learn. The number one thing my papa always taught was to learn from winners. That's what I do every day. You've seen me copy winning traders with shareforyou.com. Abi, simple.
Every morning is an opportunity to take your hustle to the next level. So, start every day with a great tasting cup of Nescafe 3-in-1. Just add water and enjoy the blend of coffee, creamer, and sugar with that rich, creamy taste you love. To help you start strong and make every morning count. Start strong, finish strong. Nescafe.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the biggest Jollof festival ever. Let's welcome the Smoky Jollof Lovers, the Suya Jollof Lovers, and the Seafood Jollof Lovers.
Whatever kind of jollof you love, come rep it at the North Jollof Fest. Date is July 23rd, 2023 at Muriokola Park. Time is 12 p.m. Attendance is free. Visit NordJolloffFest.com to register.
North Jollof Festival.
Your Nutrilicious Bama is now available in sachet.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Putting pepper and heavy D up in my limousine.
Are you like me that loves rap from B.I.G., Tupac, Hova, and NASS? Or you're still me that's a big R&B freak?
I like the way you work it.
Or maybe you're a lover of slows like me.
Let's party like it's the 90s every Sunday on Rewind with Ufoma Egbamuno on 99.3 Nigeria Info every Sunday from 9 p.m. Welcome back to your number one talk, news, and sports station. This is Nigeria Info.
This is Eyes and Nays on Hard Facts, and I am Sandra Ezekwesili, who had their way in the selection of NASS principal officers. I'm having a conversation with our usual guest on Eyes and Nays. So we moved Eyes and Nays from Fridays to Thursdays because Public Square is back. And we have Temidaya Taiwo Siddiq here talking to us about how exactly the national leaders emerged. Order Paper is Nigeria's foremost independent parliamentary monitoring organization and policy think tank that bridges the gap between the people and the parliament. And that's why they are our partner on this segment on Hard Facts. And before the break, I was talking to Temidaya about the American system where the leader of the majority party is the majority leader. And the Senate president is actually the vice president who only shows up for certain things. So what they did in America or in the American system is make their President ceremonial, give him a tie-breaking vote, really, or her a tie-breaking vote, and then the Senate Majority Leader is the one who actually controls the chamber. And Temidai, before the break, was sharing his thoughts about whether this was not a more economical way of handling things. Temidai, we had to take that break while you were speaking, but if you can go on and finish your thoughts, then we'll move on to what a chief whip does.
So, thank you. I was just analyzing the historical background to our system of government. Sandra, you realize, or perhaps let me say this for the benefit of Lagosians who don't know, that between 1960 and 1966, Nigeria did run on a parliamentary model, which is the British styled parliamentary system of government. And then after the coup took place in 66, and then we moved on to 1979 when power came back to the civilian model. We decided to adopt the American style presidential system of government. I'm saying that apart from the parliament, which we are even talking about, if you would permit that we go a bit into even our executive, if we're practicing the presidential system of government, that most times it will seem like everything revolves around the president, who is very powerful. In fact, people will tell you that Nigerian president is one of the most powerful in the world.
Yes.
Not necessarily by might, as it were, because of the kind of powers that are arrogated to him in the constitution. I mean, and you don't even need to think far. Look at our current president. Since he assumed office, you are seeing people you wouldn't even imagine going to the villa to say, I just came to congratulate him. What happens to your WhatsApp? What happens to your Zoom? What happens to all that? So that is, we're talking about pecs. You're talking about favor. So the president is that powerful. And this comes from the KBST mindset, which is why you still see a lot of people, I say it all the time, people call the president and say father of the nation. There's no father of the nation in a democracy. And all of this reflects to our cultural approach to governance. So for parliament, you find a case where people see the people who are the framers of our constitution decided to make it in such a way that the president of the Senate and the deputy president of the Senate, as well as the institution of the Senate, have that much functions, which is almost like a duplication of what the House of Reps does. The major difference, however, is that the House of Reps do not approve appointments that are sent in by the executive. That's one major difference. The ministers who will be appointed, NDDC and all other parastatals of government, they are screened and confirmed by the Senate. As it relates to lawmaking, as it relates to motions, as it relates to petitions, there is nothing you do in the Senate that you can't do in the House of Reps. And to worsen it, you cannot pass a law in the House of Reps, for example, or in the Senate, as powerful as it were, without it getting concurrence from the other chamber. It will not become a law in Nigeria. So you see that what you are speaking to, which is in the spirit of cutting the cost of governance, shouldn't we be looking at this? If not now, at least in the nearest future. And I totally agree with that.
Okay. Lagos, of course, join the conversation. 0700-993-993-993, 01465-7190. Temidaya, tell me, what does a chief whip do?
All right. The chief whip, like I loosely mentioned when we were speaking earlier, it doesn't really differ from house to house, but the major function of the chief whip is to kind of maintain decorum in during parliamentary business. I need to say that while I mentioned earlier that the parliament is an institution on its own, and I mentioned that it goes beyond sitting in plenary. For example, the Senate and House of Reps sit Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. What happens on Monday and Friday? Committee sittings, sometimes oversight visits to executive parastatals and all of that. So when you have that sitting going on, it's called the plenary session, where they sit to deliberate on bills, motions, or talk about petitions or committee reports. We need somebody from either side, whether majority or minority caucus. We need them to maintain decorum in the parliament. I'll just quickly, for the sake of the questions, read the House rule book. This is other. Okay, I'll just go ahead. The House rule book says, whip of the House. The whip of the House shall be a member nominated from among members of the majority party. His function shall be to, in conjunction with other officers, ensure the attendance of members, order, decorum, and discipline in the House. So this is what I made mention of. And then the second one is organize members of his party in debates and divisions and persuade them on voting one way or the other. Shikena, Sandra, those are the functions.
That's the two functions. In this day and age, Sha, do whips, Temita is laughing, do whips still have the power to discipline members to get them to vote correctly? How do they do it if they still do? If they don't, why are we keeping the role?
Sandra, you cannot discuss that point you have raised without talking about party supremacy. Gone are the days where party supremacy was a thing in our democracy. That was at best in the Second Republic. First Republic and then Second Republic. And then that was also the era of identity politics, if you want to take it a bit outside the syllabus, which is people revolve around one person. They see him as inspirational. His leadership is worth following. He has an ideology. So you mentioned names like Nnamdi Azikiwe, Awolowo, and all of that. But now it's a different case entirely. You have a case where strange bedfellows, or if you like, people with different varied interests come together. Let us snatch power from those in government, or let us maintain the status quo. And then you bring A, B, you bring Sandra from Anambra or anywhere, you bring this person from this other part, and they will come together, and then you want to take. So in that case, what matters is whose interest at the time. As far as the APC is concerned now, the alpha and omega of the party affairs is the president. When it was Buhari that was there, it's the same thing. And that is because of the fact that the party does not hold a major ace. I mean, you heard the national chairman, Sandra, say that the principal officers who emerged was a mere rumor. And then by this morning, you can see what the papers are saying. It's a family affair. It has been resolved. That is the national chairman of a party.
Yeah.
National chairman of a party is as powerful as the president if we're looking at it in the real sense of it. So if you're wondering why a deputy whip perhaps may not be able to ensure people vote along a particular line, there your answer is party supremacy.
Okay, I'm glad you've gone there. Let's now talk about the emergence of these principal officers. Perhaps the biggest shocker is Aminu Tambuwal not emerging as deputy minority leader, because he was lobbying hard for the role, and he looked like he looked like he would get it, you know, as a former speaker of the other chamber and a former governor, you know, but he didn't get it, and that seems to be because Nyesom Wike opposed him. Wike and Tambuwal Lagos were, of course, very close allies, but they fell out during the PDP presidential primaries when Tambuwal stepped down for Atiku instead of stepping down for Wike. So Wike has been working against his emergence as Senate minority leader and supported Mwakdong instead. And Mwakdong Wike is still a force PDP, even though he has won Shalele Lindsay.
I really don't know the answer to this question, but I do society. I do want to call in case of there's a wicked tendency. Members who are alleged that this was just one party dictation. The Senate minority leadership and they were trying to none of them appear to be in this new Senate minority leadership. So you can't say that the article faction or a tendency, because they're not factionalized, prevailed. And so for Wiki, Watcon is largely someone who is neither here nor there. So if you say Wike perhaps had his way, it was in the House of Reps and not in the Senate, because I think that, and of course I stand to be corrected, what really happened in the Senate was that these people were like, okay, between Tambuwal and who actually Wike wanted, let's stay in the middle, so we are able to do this. So, and I think that's what happened in the case of the Senate. And then for the House, definitely Representative Kingsley Chinda is from Rivers, and not just from Rivers, he is from Obiakpo local government, which is former Governor
Wicked.
Wike's local government. And then I will also take a slightly different position to say that it wasn't really, yeah, in the face of it is Wike that won for that house. But when you look at the build up to the House of Representative presiding official election, Sandra, you and I talked on this show a couple of times about the possibility of the minority producing the leadership of the House, and we saw that that possibility continued to wane by the day. And then you had tough guys coming from the majority party. And what happened on the day of inauguration? 353 members of the House across party lines voted for Tajuddin Abbas, and then the Deputy Speaker Ben Kalu emerged unopposed. That was a clear indication that you were going to have a case of very faint line between what the majority and minority would do in the parliament. And I said on radio, I mean 2 days ago, I said, or yesterday, that for me, I still look forward with some form of hope, but largely with cynicism that will really have any major opposition in the House of Representatives. It's largely going to be in the Senate that you should look forward to that, because in the House of Representatives, they already started this party arrangement called joint task from the beginning, and you could see where the handwriting was leading to, and it was the fact that you are not going to have somebody who is very rugged and very very tough emerge as minority leader that will come and oppose Abbas. No, I didn't think that was going to happen. But the flip side of it is that congratulations to Honorable Chinda, because what he has done now, as it were, was what was done to him in 2019, where he was the choice of the PDP. It was the choice of the party. Of course, with Wike's influence, who had a very larger than life influence as at then in the PDP, he insisted that Chinda and of course some of his people would be the minority leader of the House. But you had Tony Elumelu, yes. Is it Tony Elumelu? Sorry, Undudi Elumelu.
Yes.
Yes, Undudi Elumelu. Actually work with the leadership of the House. That's as Femi Gbajabiamila, and he emerged. So you now have a case where Chinda, that was favored, didn't emerge. He was surprised when Gbajabiamila read on the floor of the parliament the names of minority, and he didn't know about it. So I said yesterday on a separate forum that for principal offices in Nigeria, you cannot really hit your chest to say that you will emerge until your name is read on the floor of the House. You are not a principal officer.
All right. Thank you very much, Temidayo Taiwo Siddiq, for joining us as usual. He'll be back next week, Thursday, and we'll talk about the agenda for the 10th Assembly now that they have resumed. Temidayo, always a pleasure to have you on Hard Facts.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lagos will take a break, and then we'll bring you the news at 6. After the news at 6, it will be time for the step down. On the step down today, let's talk about the power of the tongue. A conversation we started on Tuesday where a woman said to her sister-in-law, "You're doing baby shower. You don't know whether you make it out alive." Sister-in-law dies while trying to give birth. Family members are accusing her now of being responsible for the death of their sister. Again, I'm Sandra Ezekwesili, Lagos. Don't go away.
Hard Facts will be right back.
The only station that puts you first.
Security apparatus that we have, they are not only ghosts. They cannot be everywhere at the same time. Let every Nigerian be the first responder to whatever crime that is being perpetrated towards them.
You see, if government is doing exportation, I know that nobody is going to portray them. And they will create jobs for people, but they're just sitting down.
I got stretch marks in my teens. So, of course, when I became pregnant, I wanted to avoid them. I'd hear about bio oil all the time. So, it was the obvious choice.
Bio oil helps improve the appearance of scars, stretch marks, and uneven skin tone. Bio oil is available in all leading pharmacies and shops and is available online on Jumia. To identify genuine bio oil products, look out for the Sproxil, scratch and text PIN and be in